Welcome back, everybody. Good morning, Wrestling Inc. It is me, your managing editor, Nick Hausman, joined here by Justin LeBar, as I am every Thursday at noon Eastern here on the Wrestling Inc. YouTube channel. Thanks so much for tuning in. We are going to be recording the news segment here for the WINCLY, which, of course, goes out every Thursday via the Wrestling Inc. audio channel. Be sure to check us out here and then go over to iTunes, where you can find not just the discussion we had here on the show, but you also get a lot of interviews as well. This week, we have quite a murderer's row of interviews here this week. We have got Johnny Impact Wrestling World Champion. We've got WWE superstar Matt Hardy. We've got Justin Credible and the director of his Credible documentary, David Gear. We've got former WCW superstar Glacier and Ring of Honor's Flip Gordon. You're also going to get the Views from the Turnbuckle audio edition with me and Jesse Collins, breaking down the 5 most interesting people in pro wrestling going into 2019. So all of that available over on the Wrestling Inc. audio version of the WINCLY. But here we are. You can watch us here live in living color every Thursday at noon Eastern as we talk the news. And with that, I'm going to bring over to the show one of the most interesting people in professional wrestling who unfortunately did not make Jesse's list, Justin LeBar. Justin, welcome back to the WINCLY.
Damn that Jesse.
Jesse, he put he's like, hey, here's the 5 most interesting people in pro wrestling. Daniel Bryan, sure. Becky Lynch, yeah, great. You're not on the list. You didn't make the list.
Was I at least like honorable mention? Like 6th or 7th?
No, there was no Justin LeBar on the list. Sorry, Justin. You didn't get it. Let's get to the news here, Justin. This is what we are here tasked to talk with here every Thursday at noon Eastern. The Wrestling Observer newsletter just dropped this morning. There was some more about the historically low-rated Raw from this past Monday night. As we had been reported yesterday on the Wink podcast, Finn Balor, they're saying out with injury. It does sound like he's out with an illness. Left the South American WWE tour last week to go home and recover from that. Also sounds like Alexa Bliss has a bad cold. She had a weak voice on Monday night, so she did not do the bulk of her talking in her segment that was handed over to Nia Jax. And Bobby Roode, also not feeling well. He was having trouble speaking during his promo. Bad time for everybody to be getting sick here on the eve of WWE TLC, Justin.
Yeah, we saw something like this back in October of 2017. I was one of the first to report it then when there was some kind of a sickness or virus going through the locker room. I was headed to Minneapolis, where WWE was headed as well for TLC, thanks to my great friends at Ticket King based out of there. And that was the famous week where Kurt Angle joined the Shield for that, because they had to do a lot of shuffling around of that TLC card. Is also where Asuka made her debut, et cetera. And so, it happens. This kind of, when this traveling circus of guys and girls, when they're traveling and they're so close together and they're obviously in the ring together, they're, physical contact. And then you're traveling from a very cold United States, and you're traveling to South America, climate changes. It's just going to happen. When one gets sick, it's just, this is a common thing to happen. So, that time of year, hopefully it's nothing more than just, get a few days of R&R and get back on it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, very unfortunate to hear, especially with Alexa Bliss not feeling well. Of course, she is, according to the Observer here as well, still not medically cleared to return to the ring. She's been training down at the Performance Center, which has raised a couple eyes. But I guess there's like a special ring that people like her who are coming back from concussions can practice in, that's more or less just like a crash pad with a canvas over it. Did you know that these rings existed? This was news to me.
Yeah, I've been to the Performance Center before, and they do. I've seen the crash ring. It's where they can it's literally like just like a giant foam pit with the ropes and everything there. I think what they might be talking about, I think, is a little bit different than what I saw there, which is they do put enough over it so you can move around and walk, but still really be relieved of injury in terms of, as the normal unforgiving ring that, unforgivingness that is when you bump into a ring. So
it does kind of feel like Alexa's not like an immediate return scenario right now. I mean, I don't just from what I'm gathering here, I mean, in the position they put her in as an authority figure, that's, that seems like a longer term position. I don't foresee her getting back into the mix like in the immediate future.
Yeah, I don't know what the timeline is, but I definitely, like you, it raises a little bit of an eyebrow of like the timetable with this. It doesn't seem like it's been a quick fix. It also might be, again, just precaution, and hey, it's better to have her out right now and then be able to use her. Obviously, Road to Mania, coming around the corner. So it's hard to say what it is. If they've discovered something that's more critical than
Yeah.
first led to believe. It's hard to say, because like, again, it's that time of year right now where I could simply buy into, hey, we can afford to like give her some extra time to make sure that she's truly 100% ready to go, because we want her from January to April.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate that she's out right now, because the women's roster has never been hotter right now, and I can only imagine sometimes what an Alexa Bliss would be doing right now, in the mix with a Becky, with a Charlotte, with an Asuka, with a Ronda Rousey, with a Nia Jax. I mean, it just seems like this is a really unfortunate time for her to not be in the mix, because all the women right now really complimenting each other, and it'll be interesting to see how she fits back into that mold. The landscape will have just changed a whole lot since she has gone out with injury when she gets back, I guess.
Yes, but at the same point, you can make the case based upon everything you just said. Ronda, Becky, Nia, Charlotte, all these women who are rising to the top right now. You can make the case that's that much more reason why you don't need to rush Alexa Bliss. That the women's division, it's not like it all centered around Alexa. We have these other interesting stories going on, so you can make the case that that's all the more reason not to rush her back. Again, let her get healthy so that way she is ready in time for Rumble and Mania and all the festivities in between.
Yeah. Well, and on the note about Becky Lynch here, she was on Ariel Helwani's show this past week, and she noted that after she got punched in the face by Nia Jax on Raw and her face got all bloodied and things like that, she completely blacked out and just kind of went on autopilot after that. It's badass what she did. It is kind of weird to me how much they talk about at NXT trying to protect the guys and not let them go on anymore and pulling them. Because, Hunter worked through those injuries at Crown Jewel. Here you see Becky's being applauded for working through that injury and things like that. I mean, it was a badass moment and everything, but I mean, do you think it sends any kind of message to the roster that like, hey, it's still the right thing to do to push through, even if you have something where maybe we should stop and take a look at you?
Well, there is some contradiction. The wrestler's code, as you know from working on shows in a managerial standpoint, obviously the wrestler's code is, you tough it up and you finish the match. Nobody wants their match to be stopped. You want to finish it. There's still that code. At the same point, though, WWE has to publicly make sure they're publicly saying, we will stop matches if it gets, and we have seen them stop matches, to be fair. Or at least they put a timeout. Essentially, we've seen the doctor go in there and close an open wound. So it's a tough line for WWE to walk. The wrestling mentality is never going to leave the locker room. If you want to finish, the show's going to go on. You want to finish it, but WWE still has to publicly walk a line and talk about looking out for the safety, the well-being of the performer. So I'm sure Becky's applauded by everybody. I think they probably it was chaos in that scenario when she got punched by Nia. I think had they known, I mean, had there been an obvious sign that like, okay, Becky's knocked out or Becky's not right, they probably would have tried to call an audible. I don't know what they could have called an audible on the final segment of the show where it's supposed to end with her, but I'm sure they would have took some precaution. But really, none of us really, all we saw was blood. Oh my God, look at this is badass. Not until a day later did we really realize, holy hell, how severe of a shot she took.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know. I guess it's like for me when I hear these stories, like I was in the CM Punk courtroom, right, when he was, at trial with Dr. Aman from WWE, and listening to Aman talk about how like he really tried to get Punk to leave the Rumble. He could realize he was concussed, and then Punk saying, no, I want to stay in this match. There's obviously the whole lawsuit was kind of conflicting stories surrounding that. It's tough to wrangle these guys in if the mentality higher up is that you push through. I guess I don't take it very seriously that they're sitting the whole roster down and being like, hey guys, if there's an issue, it is not going to affect your push. It is going to be cool if you let us know to end the match and get the medical treatment that you need. I don't know. For me, that doesn't seem like the company line. It seems public,
I totally get what you're saying. And it's great that you use that example with Punk, because I was sitting front row at that Rumble at Punk's last match. I was there and I watched, and I was tweeting and documenting. I watched the in between, the go around between him and the doctor, and then they sent Kane out there and Punk's waving Kane off. So you're right. That is a great example. It is, it's hard. It's hard to believe that a wrestler truly feels like, okay, I can just say I'm done and wave the white flag. I got hurt here, and right. I'm not gonna get any any backdoor repercussions of, okay, you just screwed up our booking here.
Right.
I totally get that.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just an observation I had when I was listening to her talk about this because yeah, she's being applauded. You know, there's great visuals and everything like that. It does send the message. I mean, we're in 2019. We're going into 2019 that the law of the land still is push through. If you're injured, finish the match. Just a interesting observation I thought when I heard her talk about that. We should also maybe touch here on the fact that Raw was again historically the lowest rated program ever in the 1,333 episode history of Raw. It did less than 2.1 million viewers in the third hour. We've had a couple days here. I know that we've both kind of in different forms talked a bit about this, but like, what is your big takeaway? Like, when you think about why the ratings are low right now, does it matter? What do you attribute it to? Where's your head at on this one, Justin?
I attribute a lot of it to the fact it's a 3-hour show. I say this over and over. I mean, a 3-hour show every single week is just it's an unnecessary. Never mind. I mean, yeah. I mean, obviously there's the factor of of the Jimmy Jacobs tweet of writing a 3-hour show every week is a lot. It is a lot. It's just a lot for. I mean, think about even like a national, like a football game. Watch the NFL. Most football games, the broadcast is about 3 hours. Okay, but there's halftime. There's plenty of stoppages for you to go away. I mean. WWE, they're trying to show you the match during commercials. I mean, they're expecting the audience to sit for 3 straight hours every single week. No, 3 hours is supposed to be for a pay-per-view special. Okay, 3 hours is not supposed to be every damn week. It's a big reason why SmackDown is that much better because it only has to be. It's 2 hours. It's a sweet spot. I attribute really. I go down to 3 hours and then it's a trickle down. Okay, it's 3 hours. All right. Well, it's one thing when it's 3 hours and you can bring all these big stars in for like the big anniversary shows. Okay, we don't have them every week. All right, well, who do we have every week? Well, we have this guy named Roman Reigns. We have Braun Strowman. Okay, well, we can try to fill it there. Now we don't have them. It just becomes a trickle down. 3 hours to fill. I mean, look at the irony. The irony is they send Seth Rollins out there, who's probably your number one baby, or not probably, he is your number one babyface on Monday Night Raw. They send Seth Rollins out there to basically, his script was essentially a whole bunch of tweets that people had angrily wrote. That's essentially what his script was. His script, he's speaking through the angry fan. They're pinning all of the blame on the authority figure in Baron Corbin. And then they give you Seth Rollins in the main event, and it still can't do the number. I mean, I think we're at a point now, you just can't expect people with, I don't know, I think 3 hours is just, that's the problem. That's the start of the problem.
I've heard that argument a lot. It's 3 hours. It's hard to write 3 hours of TV. I just don't buy it. Right? SmackDown's great. SmackDown's 2 hours. You can't tell me that you can't fill another hour.
That's the week to week. Nick, look at it this way. Go through Monday Night Raw. Maybe not even just this past Monday, but go through Monday Night Raw week to week, and you figure, okay, Monday Night Raw is 5 segments an hour, right? So basically 15 segments, basically. Okay.
It's a bad
take the best stuff from Monday Night Raw and say, okay, what can we do that can boil it into 2 hours? And you'll find a solid 2 hours. There's always a lingering third hour. There's always 5 segments that are just.
SmackDown has variety. SmackDown has more than one feud with stakes, right? There are multiple things going on, so you could compartmentalize these interesting stories and pace them out throughout the show. Raw is all authority figure grasping to keep power, losing control. It affects everything. It bleeds into every aspect of the show. It's hard to write it.
Yes. From a writing aspect, SmackDown seems like it is not micromanaged. SmackDown seems like it is. I will give you that. Yeah, SmackDown does, but I do think also the time frame comes into the factor. I agree with you. SmackDown, it seems to be better handled backstage creatively.
But that's the thing. It's not that it's not, it's hard to write a 3 hour show. I agree, but you got 50 people back there. It's the fact that you're making bad creative choices. You're making a 3 hour bad creative choice by circling this whole thing around this parable of an authoritarian figure who's losing control and is grasping for power, and those around him are trying to pull him down. I mean, look, you could draw your own parallels about where Vince McMahon's head's at when he's writing that thing, but it just doesn't connect with the audience. It's taken over the whole show. That's why Raw is not good. SmackDown has many fun things going on. There's not many fun things going on Raw. There's one thing that takes over the whole show.
Well, Raw has also set itself up in some ways to have to deal with these issues, in the sense of every person, everybody that SmackDown's built around is there every single week, and you pretty much have them. You're built around Daniel Bryan, AJ Styles. You have all these guys. Raw, they've chosen to, and believe me, I'm a big supporter of Brock Lesnar and how big of a draw he is. But you've had the title the better part of the last couple of years. On Brock Lesnar, you don't have him week to week. So that takes your title story out of the fold of what you can do creatively. Okay, you tend to like to put Stephanie McMahon and Triple H and their big stories, Kurt Angle, all their big stories on Raw. You don't have them every single week as characters. And then again, and then now Roman Reigns, unfortunately, you lose him to leukemia for the time being. Braun Strowman, temporary injury. They, unfortunately, Raw has set themselves up to the people they built around. They don't have every week, whether it be by sickness or by contract.
Cool. Find fun things for many people to do and not try to figure out how Baron Corbin's lust for power is affecting their push, which is pretty much the storyline for everything right now on Monday Night Raw. Again, it's like I hear it's hard to write 3 hours. I get it. Writing 3 hours is hard, but at the same time, you're putting up walls in front of yourself, hurdles by picking bad creative directions here and not only making bad creative directions, but also picking one bad creative direction and having affect everything on the show. I mean, I hear the argument. You got to write 3 hours. It's rough. Whatever. Vince McMahon apparently writes this 3 hours, 45 minutes before the show, right? And that's why it's got this kind of visceral parable type feel to it that's, I don't think resonates with the wrestling audience right now.
Well, and another thing too, there are a lot of people involved in the creative staff, and obviously I understand the need to have a lot of bodies because you do have a lot of segments and minutes to fill between all the shows, and not just Raw and SmackDown, but then the stuff they put out just for digital. There's a lot of content, and that sometimes can hurt you. In fact, more cooks in the kitchen, too many cooks in the kitchen sometimes. Of it's hard to get one singular idea to start from start to finish without it going off on all these detours, because it starts at this side of the room, and by the time it gets to this side of the room, it's not even recognizable what the idea was. Here's
what I'm going to be interested in, is because I think Baron Corbin is going to win on Sunday, because I mean he lost the TLC match. We had this talk yesterday. And I think that, they're not going to have him lose back-to-back TLC matches, lost on Monday Night Raw. I don't think he's going to lose on Sunday. So does that hook people? If Baron Corbin wins, are they going to be like, oh, man, I got to see where this guy takes it to? And if he does lose and this void opens up for a new general manager spot, does that hook people? Is there a hook either way coming out of this bout with Braun Strowman on Sunday?
Well, I mean, if Baron Corbin wins, which I'm not predicting him to, I'm different from you here. If Baron Corbin does win and he's the permanent Raw GM, I do think there's going to be a rolling of the eyes by a lot of people. If he loses, obviously, yeah, there is some excitement and hope, because then it becomes, okay, where do they move forward? You assume they'll probably fill it. Even though I think I like to do away with GMs, but they seem committed to having authority figures. It makes you go, okay, who is the next GM? Is it Hulk Hogan? Or is it Matt Hardy? It does make you think, whenever there's obviously a vacancy, that is a hook to see who they bring in next. But
I think that I feel, and again, sometimes I just try to put myself in Vince's brain, which is, maybe not a healthy thing for anyone to do. But this
meat sweats.
I did eat a lot of steak last night. There was, I put myself in Vince's brain, and I think, oh, how would Vince usually think about this? Everybody's telling him, oh, Baron's not working. He's got to lose, right? Vince is like, no, we're going to double down, right? He's going to have more power, right? And people are going to hate him even more. And you're going to have to find that baby face, whether it's Balor, whether it's Elias, whether it's Apollo Crews, that's going to be the one to challenge that character and take him down at a bigger show a la Royal Rumble or WrestleMania. I don't see this guy. I don't see them backpedaling on his accruing of power at TLC. It just doesn't seem like the time that they would pull back on it.
But I don't see them having, if Braun Strowman, in fact, is going to perform, which you think if he's not, they would have changed this by now. Do you see Braun Strowman coming back after being off TV? Braun Strowman's last scene being decimated by Baron Corbin and others. Do you see the first time Braun Strowman comes back, he loses? I mean, I look at this as just a straight squash match. I think Braun's going to come out. I think he's just going to demolish. I mean, this is one of two TLC matches. It's the TLC match that really doesn't matter in the scheme of there's no title or anything. There's obviously the stipulation of GM, but I could see this being, Ticket Drew and I talked about this on my podcast. We could see this being the opening match of TLC just to get it out of the way. Braun comes out, bulldozes over Baron Corbin.
But here's the thing: is like Braun would lose, right? But he's not getting pinned. He's not submitting. You walk up a ladder, you grab the contract. That's how you win. Whatever. Baron Corbin locks him in this dressing room, right? And then he grabs the contract, And then Braun comes out and lays him out, right? But he's already got the GM power, whatever. There's like a million ways you could rationalize this man didn't get to the ring in time to stop this other man from climbing a ladder and grabbing a piece of paper,
You're right. I mean, that's a very plausible scenario.
Thank you. Yeah.
Baron Corbin backs a forklift up against Braun Strowman's dressing room, and then Braun breaks through, but comes in too late. No, it's very plausible.
But that's the thing, is that the bigger hook? If Baron accruing more power, you got this ass kicker monster, then now it's even more pissed off. Baron's got more power. Does that raise the stakes and generate more interest? In my head, when I think like Vince, I say, yeah, it does. Because this monster, he's still on the chase, right? He's got somebody in his sights. He's not really a political figure, so I don't really know how that plays into the parable. But, I think the stakes get raised,
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, again, I think authority figures have been overdone. Personally, with authority figures, I think it's hard to... I love Stephanie as an authority figure because it makes sense, because she's a McMahon, so she is one of the ones in charge of the company. So it's reasonable for me to think about. I've never really been a fan of we're going to bestow power upon random wrestler, because my thought's always been, if I'm random wrestler who's in charge as a GM, I could just strip somebody of the title and make myself champion. I don't know.
And we'll move on here in a second, but it was bizarre on Monday night that Seth Rollins called out, like, we have low ratings. You are responsible for that. I can't imagine a time ever where they've called something out like that on TV. That almost seemed like an admittance of failure in a way.
Well, I think WCW did it back in the day.
They did it. That's not good though.
Yeah. No, I was happy they acknowledged it, because use what people are talking about and try to. I mean, sure, I'm sure people would rather Seth Rollins, break the fourth wall and say, Vince McMahon, you need to change your booking. He's not going to do that. It makes sense to direct the blame to the authority figure that they are investing in, the character Baron Corbin. I like the fact they acknowledged it. I like the fact they acknowledged it better than had they just had Michael Cole and them come on the air. We got another great episode of the longest running episode of television. Just been all cheerio. I'm glad that Seth Rollins came out and acknowledged it. It was a little bizarre that the babyface Seth Rollins decided to praise the revival and knock Lucha House Rules, another babyface. I mean, that was a little bit odd to see. It's also odd to think that the same people who wrote the script for Seth Rollins are the people who are responsible for the bad scripts and the low ratings.
Well, it was weird because the other week, Raj was making the point, well, they're trying to get Lucha House Party over by saying, oh, they're so progressive. And I was like, dude, do you believe that? Like, they're making fun of these guys. They're making fun of people who are like, oh, we got to change the wrestling game. We need more flippy floppy stuff. Oh, look how progressive it is. Like, they're mocking. I feel like Lucha House Party is in a lot of ways like a slow burn on a particular set of the IWC. And that's why you got that line from Seth Rollins there, because they know this isn't working. Like, it's bizarre. My brain hurts now. It hurts to think about, Yeah. Okay. Let's switch gears here. Off Lucha House Party. Let's talk Bray Wyatt. This past week, he cleared out his Twitter feed, probably because maybe he has things in his past that he did not want to come back up. Who knows? No, he's returning to form here. He has tweeted out, today I am someone different. Today I have finally become who I really am. He did make a surprise appearance at Starrcade a couple weeks ago, but we have yet to see him come back on TV. Do you know anything about what's going on with Bray? When do you think we would expect to see him back on TV, and what kind of a Bray Wyatt do you think we're going to get this time around?
I don't know. I don't know when he's coming back. A little part of me is excited because I'm like, all right, I'm hoping that there's something that's going to really hook me. But at the same point, I feel like I've read that tweet from Bray Wyatt a million times. I feel, what Bray Wyatt's riddles and tweets, what they're starting to be like to me. I don't know if you have. If anybody has those friends on social media, there's people they follow or friends on Facebook, and it's just people that they always have a big announcement. It's always stay tuned, and the journey's just begun, and more to come. And they always hype that they always have big news, and that they have something coming around the corner. And then I feel like I never hear about any big news or something. I don't know. Like, I feel like there's always those people online that always have, stay tuned, coming up soon, big announcement. And it's like, that's what I feel like Bray Wyatt's riddles and rhymes are, is that he's a new man. I have been reborn. I have found the inside of my head, and it's like there's always this random sayings that mean nothing. That's kind of where I'm at with Bray Wyatt, unfortunately, and which is a shame because on paper there's so much potential for what his character is. Physically, he's very athletic for his size. He's very good. He's got good facial expression. So it's like all the tools are there. It's just they can never all the pieces are there. They can never just make the puzzle make a complete picture.
I really like the way you framed Bray Wyatt. I kind of want him to come back as like a bad independent wrestling promoter, where he's like, 2019 guys, I promise we got big plans. We're gonna change the game. A lot of stews in a lot of chickens in the pot, guys. You know, because that's
what I mean.
Yeah,
that's I have people on social media that I see that all the time. It's always like, stay tuned, more to come, big news coming. And it's like, I never feel like I get it delivered.
Well, and to wit, I think there's a better way to do this then, because I think that similarly, guys like Matt Hardy have done things like this, but they add a video element or like a photogenic element, right? Where you can kind of follow along. An evolution of a jacket. You're looking at something, or a video. You're watching him start to transform into something. You see the process play out, and it builds to something. If it's just a tweet with some words, I'm with you. It just kind of comes across like, indie promoters 101. But I think other guys have taken this tact, applied more texture to it, and it can become a fun thing.
Yeah, I mean. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like we've read it a million times from Bray Wyatt. So I want to be proven wrong, that this is the time, that this truly is going to be the start of the best Bray Wyatt we've seen. I want to believe that. I'm hoping that happens. But I feel like there's just been a lot of round and round we go, really, with no advance.
What's going on with Harper? I know he had a cast on his arm. Are him and Rowan close to coming back?
I don't know what the timetable is. I know that Harper has been dealing with injury. I don't know what the timetable. I think, best of my knowledge, I think Rowan. I don't think Rowan's dealing with anything. To the best of my knowledge, I might be wrong.
He went out first with like some kind of, I think it was like an ankle injury or something. I'd have to go back and look at it. But he went, and then Harper popped up with the cast, and I think Rowan's good. I think they were both dealing with something though.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's why they haven't. Anyway, the reason I ask, obviously, is like they're not on TV. Braun's not back yet. Bray's not back yet. I mean, I guess theoretically, there's a chance you could see these guys reunite, and that seems like kind of what everybody wants, except for maybe Braun. Braun's kind of broken out on his own.
I wouldn't put Braun back there. I mean, Braun was put in there simply just to get him on TV, and he was there to learn. I mean, again, Braun had never had a TV match, and he had very few matches at all in NXT on live events. So. Yeah, his version, him being the Wyatt family, was for him to sit there and learn and travel with those guys. So I would leave him obviously on his own. But yeah, put Harper, Rowan, and Bray. That's the other weird thing. The height of Bray Wyatt was, when the Wyatt family first came to Raw, and people dug the music and they dug the entrance and everything. I mean, everything was clicking. That was the best of times, and so it makes you wonder, if it wasn't broke. Why did you try to fix it? Maybe just, I mean, I understand probably at the time they wanted to say, okay, let's see if we can break these guys out. But they broke them out and they didn't really commit.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw they didn't really commit to it.
Yeah. And the Bludgeon Brothers thing nobody ever bought. I don't think anybody ever bought into it. I'd be very happy if they don't come back as the Bludgeon Brothers.
Well, even prior to that, when they did break off and Harper, was IC champ for a minute, he had that phenomenal match against Dolph Ziggler that everybody still talks about. It's like, okay, you found a guy who can still be the Luke Harper character, but you let him branch out a little more. You let him, wrestle on his own. I don't. It feels like every time they've come across something that's worked with those guys, they've shied away from sticking to it. If that makes sense.
No, you're absolutely right, and I also agree that Luke Harper on his own, as Wyatt family Luke Harper in that IC title picture. Remember how he'd drag it around? It was great. I loved that. So we'll see here. We'll see what happens with Bray in the coming weeks, especially as we go into WrestleMania here. Let's switch gears a little bit. We'll talk about some contracts, what's going on in the boardrooms of professional wrestling. PW Insider reporting that AJ Styles' WWE contract is coming up in April 2019, so right around WrestleMania. And the clubs, Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson's contracts come up in September 2019, so they wouldn't be available to make any moves till later this year. At a live Something to Wrestle With taping this past weekend, Cody took the stage and announced that he has turned down a WWE offer in recent weeks. And lastly here, the Wrestling Observer, I believe this was from today, this might have been a couple days ago. I think this is a Wrestling Observer Radio. WWE is interested in New Japan Pro Wrestling's Kushida. Interestingly, Kushida is still under a New Japan contract for about another month. And Dave notes here that it's very interesting that WWE would even be talking to another wrestler who is under a contract, since that's kind of a big no-no. And he questions whether or not they would do that with a Ring of Honor or an MLW. We talked about it yesterday, Justin, putting bullets in the gun, right? Everybody is bracing for whatever is going down January 1st. And I love that we've got AJ Styles in the club's contracts. They're not up the first, but they are up next year. They're back in the mix here as well. What do you see this all meaning? Where do some of these chips fall?
I think AJ Styles, he'll stay. I think that, I think he's had a really great WWE run. I think when you take a look at guys who have came in, that WWE has obviously gotten much more open to signing, guys, letting them keep their names. AJ Styles has probably been the number one success story. When you compare him to Samoa Joe or anybody that they've had in NXT, Finn, AJ's been the most successful, right? Merchandise machine. So they'll find a way to make it work with AJ money wise and dates wise. The club, I think they're all but gone. I think they'll be in Japan. I know Gallows. I know he has his family. He has a son. Here in the States. Anderson as well. Being halfway around the world is probably not the most appealing thing to the families, but I think make the money while you can make it, while your body's allowing you to make it. I think they'll go back to Japan, make the money, be booked better. In terms of if you're in New Japan right now, unless it is money that you just can't turn away from Stamford, Connecticut, I don't see what and AJ, because AJ Styles is almost like the exception, right? And AJ Styles is, if you're in New Japan, I don't see what WWE can really say, or like, how do you think that going to WWE is going to be better for your career? I mean, it's just, look at Nakamura, Asuka, look at so many people, and not that they've all been complete failures by no stretch, especially Asuka, but it's like, just when you see that the way WWE operates, it's different. I just don't see, if you're having success in New Japan, I don't, unless you're a hard up and you just can't turn away from the money, or unless you grew up a big WWE fan and you just have to see yourself taking that picture with Triple H or Vince.
Which is kind of what happened with Nakamura, right? Nakamura always loved WWE, and like that was one of his goals, was to wrestle in WWE, right?
Well, I don't know, actually. If you mentioned him, I think I read a transcript of an interview he did not too long ago, to where he had said that I think it was him, that he hadn't actually seen WWE until like, it was like a certain year, like 2000. Like he didn't see it for a while growing up until like a certain point. I think it was him. I might be wrong, and the chat board might be blowing me up right now. But nonetheless, I mean, again, no matter what it is, if you're wrestling in Japan, you obviously know what WWE is at that point, and you know that it's perceived as, at least it is the number one in North America, and by a lot of people, it's perceived as number one in the world. So I guess I can understand you want to get there and see if you can make it there. But God, there's been so many other trial and errors in the last couple of years that just haven't gone glowingly, stunningly well. So if New Japan's paying you well and you're in your home country and you're happy and you're being booked well, I don't see the reason to leave at this point.
What do you think about, where do you think this leaves like the concept of an AEW, right? Like a new promotion out there, as we look at where Cody and the Bucks are going with this heading into 2019, Cody possibly taking the Ring of Honor World title into free agency tomorrow night at Final Battle. The Bucks are going for the IWGP tag titles, heavyweight tag titles at Wrestle Kingdom on 1/4. You could conceivably have these guys with New Japan Ring of Honor titles, taking them into like their own promotion and creating this new environment.
Well, I think, I think it's been, here's what we've learned. We've learned in the last couple of years, wrestling companies have learned they have to work together. Excluding WWE, and even WWE with a little bit in the UK stuff, but for the most part, if you're going to do anything to try to compete against WWE anymore, with all the resources they have and the billions of worth in shares, you have to work together. There can be no more of this. We're so good, we're not working with anybody. No, Impact has to work with this guy. ROH has to work with these guys. Everybody has to work together. And I think we also have we've known it for, everybody knows this about anything, and it just takes a matter of reminding that what is old is new again. And I think that in the working together and looking back at the territorial situation of the 80s, it's kind of like what wrestling companies now have to redo again, which is say, okay, we're going to work together. We're going to respect each other's territory, but we're going to work together. So yeah, this guy can have his ROH title, but he can show up over here. That can then help draw. Hey, I owe you a favor. I'll send you talent back over here on this big show you need. I think the wrestling world, promoters, major promoters, have finally just accepted you got to work together. You're going to have to. That's the only way that this is going to work.
I do definitely think there's a reality of the fact that promoters are having to work together in ways they haven't in the past. I do think it is very interesting. Cody saying openly, I've turned down a WWE offer. Joe Koff saying, I don't see Cody in Ring of Honor in 2019. He is going to be facing Juice Robinson, defending the IWGP US title at Wrestle Kingdom. Could have the title taken him off there. And that leaves Cody completely no strings attached for whatever it is he's got in mind. And I'm going to talk a bit about this later in the show for those of you that are listening to podcast form with Jesse Collins. But I do think there is a core group of guys right now, Neville, Austin Aries, Cody Rhodes, the Bucks, that are available and are interesting talent that if you got them exclusively, you don't really need to play with a lot of other people, I think. I think you can do this in-house with the right budget.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it's, we've said it, the bullets are being loaded and something, the landscape is looking to change very shortly.
All right. Well, we also promised a TLC preview here to wrap it up. We don't have a ton of time. So real quickly, Justin, let's get your expectations for TLC. Any matches here leap off the page at you that you think are going to be show stealers?
Well, I think, again, we talked about, I think the triple threat with the tag teams, I think those guys will do all they can do. I wish it was a tables, ladders, and chairs match. It's not, but I think those guys will do their business great. I think, Brian and AJ, again, how can you go wrong with them? I don't expect Brian to drop the title. I think the match that ends the night is the ladies. I think it's Asuka, Charlotte, and Becky. I could make a case for any of the three of them winning. But I do think this is going to be the beginning, and I go into great length of this on my Wrestling Reality podcast, available everywhere. I do think this is going to be the beginning of the pieces falling to align Becky Lynch as the main event at WrestleMania against Ronda Rousey.
Yeah, I think I'm thinking Asuka takes the title here, creates a situation where Becky and Charlotte are at each other's throats and trying to get that title back here. I think it just makes for an interesting dynamic. I agree with you. The triple threat tag match is going to be great. I wonder if they're not doing it TLC style, so maybe they can hold off on doing it at like a Mania or something, trying to recreate that magic. As you mentioned, Bully Ray noted there was a lot of similar chemistry here with these guys as there was to the Dudleys, Hardys, and Edge and Christian. So, yeah, man. And like, looking at this, it's like, no knock on like, well, Natty Ruby, I guess, is like a blood feud over her dad. So they're having a tables match and they got the Jim Neidhart table. The cruiserweight match, Buddy Murphy, Cedric Alexander. I didn't really even know that was happening until yesterday. The mixed match challenge finals match for the number 30 spot at the Rumble. What I'm getting at here is there's a couple bouts where I'm just surprised that Nakamura and Rusev aren't getting a chance to throw down. Because I don't know. This is going to be an up and down pay-per-view in my opinion. All right. So with that, for those of you that are listening audio-wise right now, we are going to run off to Interview Row. Here's the order you're going to get them in. Up right next, you're going to hear from Impact Wrestling World Champion Johnny Impact. Then you're going to hear our friend Aki from India talk to WWE superstar Matt Hardy, followed up by an interview I did with Justin Credible and the director of his documentary, David Gear. Then you'll hear our good friend Michael Weissman from WrestleCade interviewing former WCW superstar Glacier, and then rounding out our interviews will be Ring of Honor's Flip Gordon. After that, I'm going to talk to Jesse about the most interesting people going into 2019 in pro wrestling. So here you go, guys. Enjoy that. Thank you very much for tuning in, subscribing, and I'll catch you here back at the end of the show. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Thank you to all of our wonderful guests. Justin, thank you very much for joining me here for another live WINCLY news recording. For those of you out there watching, listening, please come back tomorrow night, Friday night, after Final Battle. I will be here with Michael Weissman. We are going to be running down Final Battle, all of the implications of that. Michael Weissman also just wrote a very good piece called The Winter of Roads. It's going to be up on the site probably as soon as this is released. Encourage you to take a look at that. A lot of very interesting speculation about what the implications of Final Battle could entail tomorrow. And also on Sunday night, come back for our TLC post show with Glenn Rubenstein, Matt Morgan, and Raj Giri. I'm at Wink Rebel. Go find my wrestling girlfriend on Twitter. And Justin, where do you want to send people to find you, follow you, all those great things?
At Justin LeBar on social media, and you can subscribe to my Wrestling Reality podcast presented by Ticket King. out every Thursday morning on iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Play, wherever you can get it, you can get it.
Awesome. Thank you guys again so much for tuning in. We'll be back with a brand new WINCLY next Thursday. And remember, if you winked, you didn't miss it.